I declare open the Legislative Council Economy and Infrastructure Committee's public hearing for the inquiry into the industrial hemp industry in Victoria.
The average footprint when you're looking at carbon equivalent, so including methane and other greenhouse gas emissions for hemp, is 42 times smaller than that of Victorian wool. The impact on the climate of wool can vary and become even more significant than that depending on the production system. And then when you look at land, which has a major impact on biodiversity, there's also a huge difference of about 3,670 square metres more being required for the same amount of wool.
Cotton requires a lot of petroleum processing. Hemp doesn't. You're talking about cotton that requires pesticides, herbicides, glyphosates, all sorts of chemical inputs which further degrade the soil and cause more carbon right into the atmosphere, whereas hemp draws down carbon and nitrous oxide emissions 3 times faster than any other source and any other plant in the world.
Currently, we're limited to seed oil, seed or fibre. That's it. We can't do any extractions. We can't take any of the valuable lignans, pectins, bioflavonoids, anthocyanins, cannabinoids. And these cannabinoids would be a feedstock to actually create a medical industry that was strong as well, rather than supporting Canada. So if we were able to, in the legislation, use the whole of plant, extract it from the seeds, take the oil from the seeds, take the cannabinoids and take all of the other constituents of the plant, which all have a use, but we can't use them. So that's why we don't have an export industry, because every other industry or jurisdiction are already selling hemp or seed. We don't have an edge in our market in Australia. We're limited by the regulations in the State Act and then also the Federal Act.
So that you do have checks on the THC levels for that industrial hemp crop, but I think the regulation is important because you don't want cross-contamination of that crop. So you don't want a high THC. You don't want somebody growing a suspect crop somewhere and then that crop being contaminated if it's going to be used for food and things like that. You don't want that. So you need to have regulation there.
Queensland and Victoria are the only 2 states that treat the growing of hemp as a drug. Every other state has its own standalone Hemp Act, and it sees it as an industrial agricultural crop, which it is.
So if we just look at the market forces, we can see that it is probably a small industry in Victoria because of this hampering or this hamstringing of the industry because of that regulatory burden. It's quite expensive for growers to operate within.
A farmer can earn between $3,000 and $6,000 profit before tax per hectare with a fibre crop. $3,000 to $6,000 per hectare. Now that's very attractive. And the farmers, their number one question is, where are we going to sell it? That's why procurement policy by government is the answer to that question. Then a farmer with 1,000 hectares will happily devote 100 hectares this year.